Our artists are going to perform a jugalbandi of poetry and music. I introduce you to the artist. Rochelle Potkar is the author of The Arithmetic of Breasts and Other Stories, 4 Degrees of Separation, and Paper Asylum. Her works have received several recognition and awards. Rochelle is the co-editor of Goa, A Garland of Poems, and is the co-founder of the Arcs of a Circle, residency supported by the US Consulate General, Mumbai. Saima Afreen is an award-winning poet and journalist with the New Indian Express. Her poems have appeared in several national and international journals and have been presented as well at several platforms. Mrinalini Harchandrai's poems have appeared in several literary journals and were featured in a visual art show titled Breaking Ranks at the Headlands Center for the Arts in San Francisco. Her poem, The Slippers, won first prize at the bar for the Ballet Festival of India 2017, and her first collection of poetry, A Bombay in My Beat, has been recently released. Suprotec Chatterjee started learning tabla at a tender age of 4 under the tutelage of the legendary Guru Pandit Shankar Ghosh. He is a prodigy artist who started his public performances at the age of 6. Supratik has performed at several major festivals in India and overseas. Presently, he successfully juggles as a musician, a tabla teacher, and a software professional. The youngest artist in this group is Surjo Sengupta. He is pursuing his BTech at KIIT University, Bhubaneswar, and he started learning Western music, then moved on to Indian Hindustani classical music under Sri Indradeep Ghosh. Ladies and gentlemen, let us settle down to experiencing an extrasensory listening experience with this group.
Trembling, a woman goes pillar to post. A culmination of poetry and music on the ever-changing trails of water. We begin with the poem Valediction, which talks about the significance of art and the insignificance of human existence in front of it. But when you fly above the Baltic Sea and you can shake your fingers in the water, it is something else. Here is the poem, Valediction. Squeezed sunset adds its fire to blood. The skin holes kilns of centuries, flickering, melting, lifting rusted letterboxes. By their roots, the frost within the struggle of light. The wooden houses drink the sky above. The stars have always outnumbered the dead. They grow large, button-like, stitching poems prophets once discarded. Below Scandinavia glitters, I dip my fingers, shake the Baltic Sea, pluck a few conifers, and let them marry jasmines growing around Saima Harmaja's navel. Which is still the point, other constellations drifted from us. The spot, silk root tried to hold, the tail locked in Kufic letters. The smile of a dead woman in her water grave. The silk unwrapping Kalevala, the silence of Karbala. Thousands of angels tap on my flight window. The next morning, they said it snowed feathers in Helsinki, and each red mushroom lent its fire to the tiny poems opening their eyes with the grass. Helsinki flickered in a marriage of glass and fire. So now Mrinalini will read her poems.
The subcontinent's most dramatic season is the monsoon. However, if you really listen, there is a lot of drama in that restless lull that takes place right before the first shower in Mumbai. This piece is called Before the Monsoon. Rave fingertips played piano on the water, a blinding shimmer on undulating skin. The tide pulled in like a muscle at Chowpatty. Pigeons rose up, a thunder of wing flutter, showered through the arousing tumri of the koya's onomatopoeia. Over the good bay, explosions of vermilion powdered the tops of gulmohar trees. A caravan trail of clouds rolled in, looking for parking spots. Neon graffiti stood their ground, arms crossed, dryly nonchalant. The dripping tongue of a homeless dog, meeting only iridescent tar puddles. A lone sail ventured for a ride, being watched by buildings sitting like shards at the edge, waiting to puncture unassuming shapes in the sky, a city inured to exacting a toll from new migrants.
The next poem presents a rain map of my home city, an urban scape which has seen the twists and turns of history. The title of the poem is A Fable of Rain in Calcutta. We are the memory of lakes, rivers, seas. The water inside us knows it has to return where it comes from. Tries to escape, rises and comes down in drops over graves moss-laden, on silent grass guarding the feet of obelisks. The early morning light trembles, stands at the rectangular marble, marked with Henry de Rosier's poems. A little stream sluices from the other two words, like the tiny graves of children inside Park Street Cemetery. The fresh green trees, their leafy burdens over glass-finished streets, empty of wars, bugles, yakkas, soldiers, servants, epidemics. Soaked windows blur the thick gray smoke rising from a stove somewhere in Little Russell Street, but there is no fire despite that the wood belongs to it. It rains till the city disappears in unmarked calendars, faces, blind windows, trapped breeze, the red of the buildings. Tiles, roofs, all disappear inside a dawn that never saw its light. The thick carpets inside dark museums soak the blood and light of yesteryears. The ashen chandeliers, the charcoal sky. Underneath, songs and swords sleep alike. My face remembers what I looked like before washing off its skin, with warm rain and filling the gaps with flags that people in my time wore as talismans. For the exorcism of rain, the mad dance in blood.
And if we are not done as cities to take river water from the rural, here is a woman fighting to harvest rain in a megalopolitan. In heat spell before ground swell, trembling, a woman goes pillar to post for horse trots of drops that spell like robbers. Dust flying mildew against her veins, surging in damp linen like dermis of wet mongrels. For the volley on asbestos, divination in gemstones and a witching rod, like the old rain man dousing a hazel twig in the land of the Babu's office. She runs around the whole bureaucratic system like rain of slopes to cradle water from flooded forests, water boxing, pinning storms, desalinizing brackish with layers of mud at the very bottom, or importing by boats from rivers. Ponds are goddesses. Rooftop proofing is her watershed moment. Plumbing, cisterns, seizing water like wild tigers for plants, irrigation, the laundry. See, the rainman too condenses fog, dew, while waiting for long buried wells. She now runs into the direction of the tsunami, a river never reversing, ridges to trap, crops to grow, the parched becoming quenched. She draws groundwater over glacial melts, red tapeism, free of sediment. Her hair open like a tidal wave, the rain on rhythm, in sodden paper boats, smiling at her reflection in detention basins. Rain against its own skin, the world reopening, skies rebeginning, oasis of home. The next poem is Displaced. Are the rains, the water, fair to every terrain and the democracy of the river? The fish fly in the night to become stars, trees hopscotch. They knew when they dried, leaves wrinkling, the foliage thinning. They gathered honey when the earth got angry with wild wind knots in their women's hair. It was time for the rain to let down her tongue that she always kept in reserve. They knew their forests by tigers, leopards, macaws, langurs, hornbills, and cane turtles. Their river was a lifeline on their palms. They didn't know how metal dragonflies could descend from sky, the sky as vacant as a grieving mother's chest, and men who came on cycles in shirts and trousers that everyone ran away from. They would build a dam here, pour concrete into waters. Some days the sea ran into the old sweet river, spiraling green noxious that grew beside her. They had to leave their cows. They had new roots now, under another mahua tree. They got looms, but no roofs and no tread. When the rain broke her lip, their money evaporated like sweat. Their poultry died of sickness. Each road was an island, turning bare the walls of school, center, shop. Some went into the mouths of the forest. Some lay as still as mud. Some left for city shanties. And some, like Kalu, sat outside their homes, rowing a boat gently over the new river, stopping right at its center. There were no fish there, where many, many feet below, his village, home and fields still lay. He talks of the past haltingly.
Where is your water coming from? Water politics is not new to us. Those who control it control life itself. This piece was inspired by an image in the newspaper of some villagers who were protesting their land being grabbed by vested political interests so that a dam could be created to supply water to another state. Damnation. The villagers sat chest deep in swirling water, passing bread as they held protest. Banners staying resolute like river rocks. Their livelihoods gambled for drops at the ballot. Their lives exchanged for an ocean of people they've never met. The nation downstream would turn on their taps, not knowing whose blood would be washing their vessels, whose tears would be the dew on their days, whose roots have been wrenched to moisten their buds. Personal histories get submerged and eroded in the levee of politics, displacing the humanity in cost exchange spillways, hydropower surges with tension and sparks, backroom dictatorships, zapping and trading rights, redrafting survival laws at the crimson sluice gates of development. Thank you.
The next poem is about the greatness of love and when it rises above oceans. The name of the poem is "The Ocean Never Returns Our Names." I wrote our names in cursive, curly, nastaliq, clinging to each other tightly, infinitely, kissing shells, anemones, tips of coral reefs, stories the ships and starfish bring to the shores. The ocean polishes the corners of our names, gently strokes the forest within the morphemes, where metaphors rise, mingling with the green waters, bleaching our hearts of pain, of past, of erased histories. Waves bow, holding the letters on their foreheads, sail back, rise, and add our names to the treasure the history is bereft of. We glisten on the stars that lurk above waters, waiting forever for Layla to return Majnu, his original name.
I often imagine if the birds, trees, and rivers are more successful in their conferences and meetings than us. Waters, when they evaporate, meet at a global conference to speak of fish dropouts, the obscura of clouds, near deaths, hydrological dynamics, monocultures and metals, nickel, lead, chromium at their beds. The bend is notional, water for coffee, cane, banana, paddy, mills, distilleries, fertilizer plants. The Aral Sea was water for cotton in Uzbekistan, one shirt drinking 2,000 liters. Now it's more saline than the Dead Sea, palm-sized, a fossil tiger's footprint. Plains of salt, toxic dust storms, fishing towns now ship graveyards. People sick, dumps of pathogenic weapons, making summers hotter, winters colder. The Aral Sea is now the Aralkum desert. And if seas made maps, rivers homes, men borders, the Kaveri too is uprising, one of the longest running rivers, over her water share to ripple greens for Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, when her sand beds expand for mining, flowing from Brahmagiri on her way to the Bay of Bengal. She worries, if those warring over her understand that a river is a person. Like Wanganui of New Zealand, ancestor of 140 years, that got legal status through the longest running litigation by the Maori people, because mountains and its birds too are equal to men.
Let's not forget that the monsoon is also one of our most sensual seasons. And what can be more stirring than experiencing the monsoon where you can see it on a wide and open canvas away from the city. Here you can actually see nature become heavy with arousal and bursting voluptuousness, sensorial as well as very sexual. So here's a steamy little piece. Wet season, Goa. A lippy leaf closed, shyly grateful for the wet urges of seminal skies. Tender and husky, overhanging fruit throbbed more greenly, all palmed out and aching to find release and fall like droplets, walking through earth into a well of roots that snake around each other with murky intentions. A bubble comes up for air with a plop from the exhalation of a frog, richly looped up in pond slime, spellbound in the cascading sheer, like a princess's mane which reaches deeply into the bones of a pulse. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thanks for your time and attention, and I hope you enjoyed our little Poesic presentation. Supratik on the tabla, and Surjo on the violin.
But as most of the sessions happen, we still have a few more minutes, and we would like to continue the rhythm of water with a few more poems. Are you guys ready for that? So in this poem, I'm going to talk about River Krishna and also the sacrifice that art through the form of water demands from us and how difficult it is for an artist. On the banks of River Krishna is salt. I had exchanged with the sea. Prisms catch the granules, bringing to my toes offering of satvahanas, evening flowers. Silver water, I rip open a sliver, a figure rises. Bruised with the moon, it's glazed an ancient ache. Its hands scoop the sand, polish the night in my belly. A door appears, the new grass opens its eyes, and the dead stroll their faces. Carry light from the womb of Petrichor to the first rain, the first sin. In the mosque of Muse, the rush of naked syllables. The unclaimed angels charred pure gold in the belly of hell. Boats dock at chiffon hems, curling, closing in gold threads. The sky closes its petals and floats on the banks that have imprisoned Muse. The fishermen keep harvesting. Sunsets, sunrises with moon-dipped fingers on the banks of crushed quills. The moon and its masons stand nude, innocent like the first angels, unaware of the water sketches. The heart confines itself in, while water creates another temple of blood.
And the last poem from this session, Lake Vostok. Courage, they say, is quiet, strength in character, and this is a tribute to all the men and women that I have come across. Under a rock bed of ice, the last frontier of amphibians and mermaids hooking up maybe to other pulsating ecosystems. This coldest place on earth is not easy to plumb. Its skin stark, body cold, water white, discovered by ice-piercing aerial radar surveys. They say It has to be a longing for the supernatural that kept this lake buried for 15 million years under a research station. Pristine water reserve, smoothed by a network of rivers subglacial, ice world. Today we have found a reservoir of resilience, preserve of rebel, faith against all obstacles. Of the life she carries microbial, despite high pressure, constant cold, low nutrient, high oxygen, and absolutely no sun. Under thick sheets sealed and insulated in total darkness, like a potent self-belief system, latent survival instinct. A lake holding comportment, grace, coat, with naked experience and enormous wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Please let us all come on and take a bow.
Would any one of you have any queries, questions to ask them?
Or any
Anyone
comments?
On their poems, would you like to ask a question?
Beautifully choreographed, and I saw the poem flowing on your face. I माफी चाहूँगा मैं बाहर गया था because of gasping, but I enjoyed it well. It was a new concept, music with poetry. Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Surjo, Mrinalini, Saima, Rochelle, and Supratik. Thank you so much for this entertainment. Thank you so much. Ladies and
Thank you. Thank you, HLA, for inviting us and
our
allowing
pleasure.
us to offer.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.